Maniji, good afternoon. Thanks for accepting my invite. You have illustrious career. You have worked a long time in IDFC, Reliance Capital, Alchem, and it's an extremely illustrious career which you have so far. And there's a lot to learn from you for all the people who are currently working in the corporate sector or any other sector. There are a lot to learn also for lots of people who come from a very humble background and how to shape their career. How do you grow from there? So I will keep this interaction into three to four parts. So my first question will be, sir, to you, is that talk about what shaped you in terms of making you in terms of education. And probably there's a second part to it, is that your education. What were your initial thoughts on what route to take? So over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sunil. So, very interesting. Now, I have worked in the corporate sector for almost like 6 years. And if I go back and look at my school journey, my college, my professional journey, uh, I really see a journey full of excitement, learning, some good success, some failures, uh, meeting some really good people, and learning from a lot of situations. So if I start from my school, many of the students studied in Xavier in Bokaro, uh, was more keen on sports, but essentially in terms of academics, quite average. But I was keenly aware of what's happening around me. So I was always very social, outgoing, knew what's happening in my school, knew what's happening in my community, knew what's happening in Bokaro, and knew what's
Mhm.
happening in the steel sector. Quite well aware of. And possibly that's one trait which helped me in my career as well. So post school, I did my graduation from Lucknow. Again, not a place where a lot of things were happening, but I was quite sure of what I wanted to do. And I had done my own calculation in terms of where do I stand. So I knew
Mhm.
uh, I'm not someone who's really very bright in academics. So the typical say, career aspirations of becoming a civil servant or going to IITs or going to any good engineering college or a medical college. I was not looking at it. And I also knew that where I could do relatively well. So I had this knack of meeting people, understanding them, becoming part of the union, students' union, uh, taking up a cause and then working on it. And somewhere it occurred to me that if I really look at human resources as an option, uh, I possibly would do well. I understand sociology, I understand political science, I had studied.
Mhm.
So, the social surrounding, the community,
Mhm.
where people come from, that pulse and feel for people, even in my student days, I had. And
Mhm.
when I looked at applying even for this course, and which are the top three institutes would come in my shortlist and where I would apply, I was very selective. I was not lost for what where I would go or what should I do. So I applied at three places. XLR,
Mhm.
ISS, right.
That's really nice. A few things stands out, sir, here, and probably I'm eager to ask that question.
Yes.
So what I heard is one part that you probably knew that where you want to go, and there were lots of surety around that. And I also heard is about where you didn't want to go.
Yes.
Talked about the civil services, engineering, those examinations. And coming from the background where you came from, I know that how much of the societal pressure, the family pressure remains there in terms of going for some of those careers.
Absolutely.
So what helped you rule out that this is not something which I will do, and this is something which I will do? From where that was coming?
So a very brutal assessment of my own self.
Mhm.
See, there was uh, what should I say, an idea or a strong notion that one,
Mhm.
the background I come from, I can't afford to lose or burn money.
Mhm.
I need to be sure of that whatever I do it very quick and do it well. I can't think of a support which will keep coming to me for next 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, and I keep trying. So that trying was not an option for me. I wanted to do things which would work for me and where I was quite sure of.
Oh, fantastic, sir. And what I heard here is one piece, a brutal assessment.
Yes.
Not many people can do that. What was the process of that brutal assessment?
Process of elimination as well as the process of selection.
Hmm.
So process of elimination was for things which where I felt that beyond me. So
Okay.
uh, applying for civil services or preparing for IT, this was like process of elimination for me that beyond me. Very plain simple. I used to look at people who were uh, preparing for it or
Hmm.
working hard for it, and I said, is this something which I would be able to do? And my answer, honest answer to me was no. Then
Good.
second question was also coming in from the process of selection.
Hmm.
That which I want to do. Will it keep me interested, excited
Yes.
for a decent period of time? And what's my strength?
Hmm.
Right? My strength is working with people, being
Yes.
uh, sensing the pulse of what's happening in my community, my society,
Hmm.
my institute, my university, among the students, what causes, what cause I need to fight for. Uh, and I have the leadership to bring people to me
Hmm.
or work for a cause. These things were quite close to me. I said, if I look at all this, that what I want to do, and if I also look at what is beyond me, then there is a clear career option for me. And
Wow, that's so nice.
HR
And
was of personnel those days because I used to look at the jobs of personnel officer, the steel plant, coal mines. I also used to interact with a lot of union leaders from all walks of life. So people who were affiliated to left unions or right unions, BMS. So I knew the kind of ideology they used to carry, the kind of things they used to fight for, the kind of language they used to speak for. And that was quite fascinating for me. So I told myself that this is something that I
mhm.
think I could career, it interests, and also something which I feel I would need to justice.
So now I will move to the next question, sir. How the first career kind of first step happened? What was happening to you, and what were the conscious actions you were taking during those times so that you will stay on course? So if you can talk about that entire career journey, what were the big milestones, the small milestones? Or when did you take the bullet train? When did you took the probably a bus?
So it's not a straight line, and it was always full of ups and downs, failures, successes, some grand uh, successes, some big failures, and at each stage, I looked at it from a very dispassionate angle, saying that can I do something about it? If it was in my control, I did something. If it was not in my control, I moved on. And
Mhm.
I something which I always kept on telling me as an individual is that a straight line is a deadline.
That's so true.
And the first break also came with a lot of effort and difficulty. So remember, I talked to you about my ability to socially connect with people and network, even if I'm not there in the direct center of the activity or the action. So 94 when I did my PGDPM from ISL.
Mm-hmm.
The campus scene was very bad. Pathetic. I
Mm-hmm.
think for I was got taken.
Yes.
But I got my break pretty early. I was
Mm-hmm.
applying, I started applying to companies in the month of December, January itself.
Mm-hmm.
And we got our diplomas in May. And I think June or July, I had joined the company. In Mumbai. And that was
Mm-hmm.
uh, international company known for good products, good services. And this
Mm-hmm.
to me because I was proactive and I was
Mm-hmm.
reaching, was writing applications in dozens.
Okay.
Send my CV to I don't know how many organizations. This one call came to me, grab that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, it worked out well. Uh,
Okay.
so 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
that immense learning. So the company was undergoing transformation, loss making,
Mm-hmm.
and change of business model, change of structure, DRS involved, IR situations involved, and I was in the middle of the action right from day one. Uh, I think there was no period where I was told that this is your training period.
Mm-hmm.
I had joined as officer personnel and administration. There was a training word attached, but there was no training.
Yes.
And so in the first 2 years with Kodak, I was working on designing voluntary retirement schemes, working with my general manager for North in
Wow.
supporting him in changing the business model, uh,
Mm-hmm.
visiting locations and selecting CNFA agents. Although
Mm-hmm.
my commercial manager and sales people used to do it, I insisted that HR must visit these locations because our people will be working from those locations.
Yes.
I was given that opportunity to go and check and see and come back with a report. And
Mm-hmm.
that's quite exciting for me that you go to Jammu and meet a
Mm-hmm.
prospective CNFA and assess that whether he is good or bad for you, whether he
Yes.
can support your business, whether he can support your people, if he's having the right infrastructure from where your team can work. So looked at such prospect CNFA agents in Jaipur, Jammu, Lucknow,
Mm-hmm.
and supported my GM from what would work from a HR perspective and what would not. And very, very small things like if you have a office in basement and the lights are dim, this
Mm-hmm.
is space for my team to operate from.
Yes.
And then those kind of reports also I share.
Mm-hmm.
So good learning, good experience. Learn how sales and distribution business happens. What
Mm-hmm.
your business levers for manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
How to understand margins. How to understand profitability. All these came directly from the field, not from any kind of class.
That's so true.
And then moved on. Although Kodak was a great learning ground, but you need money to survive. And
Mm-hmm.
Kodak not a great game after this, not because of any other reason, but low profitability. So instead, and like, become profitable and safer in margin. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so said, okay, fine, I can keep on learning, but you need my bread and butter.
Yes.
So was looking for an opportunity, and opportunity came from a company called Mag, they're Indian company. In those days, it was Indomag tea. So foreign brand names in four sectors were not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
IN came from India, Geo came from Bodhsal, and Mag came from the Mag. That's how
The
Indomag,
name came.
yeah,
Yes.
then it became management directly.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, it was acquired by another German multinational, SMSAG. And I had spent around 5, 6 years with the company. Uh, Pretty stable, good organization in terms of structure, systems, very high level of engineering skills.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the company was doing basic engineering as well as say some more of design work here. If
Mm.
you had to go back to Urukula steel plant, that was the first
Yeah.
time Vinax was.
Mm.
Then every steel plant, any steel plant you visit, you will find some Vinax for maybe
Yes.
the trains here. So a very strong engineering company here in Germany, but uh, uh, and also quite doing quite well here in India,
Mm.
Bangladesh, rest of. So I was, and steel is a cyclical business. So I had joined the company when it was going through a phase of growth. We
Mm-hmm.
also had that phase, plus the phase where it was weak and
Mm-hmm.
people had to be, the organization had to be right size, you know,
Mm-hmm.
people to leave. So as an HR professional, you manage all those stuff, look at different project sites,
Mm-hmm.
also manage those terms of site reputation, people would be working, and of
Mm-hmm.
performance, what home the people went. And again, because of my keen sense of curiosity and trying to know things, I had
Yes.
designing a very robust manpower planning system for the for this fire.
Mm-hmm.
So we have these projects. And basically, these are engineering projects. Everything can be engineered.
Yes.
And so I would know what would be my engineering hours, what would be my drafting hours, what would be my piping hours, what would be my utility hours. If I'm billing my client on these, then
Mm-hmm.
uh, this data is ready with me. When this
Wow.
data is available, why can't I plan my manpower accordingly? And I would
Mm-hmm.
know who would be getting when. So when the next project is coming up, I would know whom to recruit and when to recruit, and that would be pretty accurate. My ED commercial was so happy with it. No one had ever approached him with this kind of a plan that this is how my manpower planning would be done,
Mm.
as well as my GM personnel and administration. So it was a big game changer.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the recruitment effort came from this kind of plan.
Yes.
So it was going good, uh, but at the same time, steel was going through a bad phase,
Mm.
and the company had stopped growing. It was acquired by another company. Uh, we had to downsize massively, and that was
Mm-hmm.
the time I thought, do I remain in steel or do I look at some sunrise?
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to change the industry,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the time when pharma, banking, IT were booming.
Mm-hmm.
At pharma and banking,
Mm-hmm.
fortunately, I had an offer from two leading organizations, and I chose ICICI Bank to join.
Wow.
And so I had joined ICICI Bank as HR head of two of their retail companies,
Mm-hmm.
which was ICICI Capital
Mm-hmm.
and ICICI Website. So it was a period of massive growth. And in no time, ICICI Capital had become the powerhouse of distribution of banking products. So it
Mm-hmm.
was first selling the ICICI bond, then it
Mm-hmm.
started selling mutual funds, housing loans, car loans, and a very fast growing company. The second company, ICICI Webtrade, is what you see as ICICI Securities Trade, a company which was trying to revolutionize how to trade, quite challenging. And
That's true.
we did pretty well in terms of making both these companies leaders in their respective. Of course, there was a brilliant team around, but even keeping pace with that brilliant team had its own challenges. And
Mm.
well supported by HR. We had brilliant leaders, uh, some very high caliber professionals who were thinking ahead of me. And it was an honor to work with them and learn. Everyone was a stalwart in his or her own field.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at them now, most of them would be CEOs somewhere of a large organization.
Yes. And that's the interesting thing which you're talking about is the two piece uh, leaders around you and a team. probably a side question on this one, and then you can continue on your journey. Uh, how does that play a role in shaping your career?
Very important actually. See, it's about challenging yourself every day, every second hour, every second minute. When you go and interact with them, uh,
Hmm.
it is intellectually stimulating, learning
Hmm.
and then thinking something which had not come to you, would not have come to you otherwise. Because,
Yes.
yeah, so it was kind of broadening your horizon all the time.
Mm.
And at the same time, if you want to contribute, then you need to be very thorough in your thinking, very logical, structured, and if you want to contribute, then you would like to talk some sense, right? You could be adding some value.
Yes.
So,
Hmm.
like keeping yourself on toes all the time.
That's true. That's very
That
true.
you're pretty smart thing. I think it's a tremendous period of learning, and
Hmm.
your company decides your fate, I think, and the kind of people who are around you will shape your career to great extent. And my learning, uh, my way of thinking, I think got shaped in a
Hmm.
way because of those kind of high caliber stalwart working with ICHI. So
Hmm. ICICI, I remember you would have contributed really, really, and those were the early days, and people like you actually who made it.
the leadership team in the reverse
Yes.
merger process,
Yes.
and I was part of the business which was impacted most severe.
Mm.
Because in this reverse merger, everyone could keep their part of the business quite well, but it was the erstwhile bank and
Hmm.
ICICI Capital which were merging really, really close
Yes.
because there were overlap. We were selling; they had their own sales team. People had to move
Hmm.
from centers to branches.
Hmm.
From branches, people had to move to some other roles. So the real merger was actually uh, happening there, and you could see it on the ground. So right,
Yes.
skill matching,
Hmm.
kind of a role, grading, salary, uh,
Yes.
practices, policies. So the entire bank was working on it, but it was happening there on the ground every day because the balance sheet lending business had to they would have done that in any case. So they continue to do that.
Hmm.
Asset business, in any case, it was happening. So you keep on going. It becomes a part of
Hmm.
a brand. But here in the branch banking as well as in the centralization of skills, duplication of locations, in
Yes.
competency. So this was
Mm.
where what was boiling.
Interesting. What I'm hearing here is that right from your first one, the Kodak, and now,
Yeah,
and probably for people who listen to this, one very interesting piece I heard is that Manish ji was talking more of a business from the first job. Your ability to kind of work cross-functionally and be part of the larger business helped you grow. So that's really interesting. I will say insight for anybody who will listen to this. A second one, in fact, what I also will emphasize upon that ICICI was probably your first HR head role.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So maybe if you can touch upon that, obviously this would have become a huge transition effort also from your side because earlier you were part of a team and you moved from being part of the team to being the HR head of a subunit. So and proper businesses, I will say, which were getting shaped for the ICICI as a group. So, what kind of, I will say, challenges you faced, how you transformed yourself, how did you manage this entire transition?
So few things worked in my favor that it was already a business on high growth with a good
Hmm.
around. So for me, it was a catching up game that you
Hmm.
be part of this team and help it grow further. And so where it worked well for me was, uh, I think, my ability to remain open and flexible, work
Mm-hmm.
fast pace, and keep supporting the team in terms of their business and
Mm-hmm.
anticipating the needs. So we had a very aggressive and market savvy CEO.
Mm-hmm.
Retail group HR heads were reporting into someone who was again very savvy with retail business
Mm-hmm.
and a very HR professional. So for
Mm-hmm.
high level guidance, high level support, there was someone available. It was
Oh.
not a complete like HR on your own. You still
Mm-hmm.
had guidance and support
Mm-hmm.
available. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, for the unit you were working on it and managing. So
Yes.
having a good team around you,
Mm-hmm.
good system, maintaining data integrity, to keep doing the basics right,
Mm-hmm.
bring in the edge which will count for you. Build
Mm-hmm.
a good performance management system. Excite people to
Mm-hmm.
do more in the right way. That was
Mm-hmm.
something because we were doing right. And
Yes.
also having a very solid and deeper level of engagement and connect with
Mm-hmm.
people. We said all the centers, all the locations, would have known most of the people by name.
Mm-hmm.
The HR system used to work like a clockwork precision. Operating rhythm was very robust. And
Mm-hmm.
tracking it on,
Mm-hmm.
on or compromise when it came to any of the HR systems.
Mm-hmm.
So
So really great to hear that, sir.
it used to work really well. Clock,
Yes.
no compromises on basics.
Yeah.
This is the cornerstone. If you
Yes.
up there, then you can't think of the bigger stuff. So set
Yes.
the team in order, do the
Hmm.
basics right,
That's
and
true.
uh, whatever you do, remain focused there. That's your, what should I say, engine room. Put
Yes.
of the time, energy in doing these nuts and bolts properly, and if there's something faulty, remove it quickly.
Yes.
Is I've always believed in, and
Hmm.
it worked for me.
Oh, fantastic. So nowadays, IPL is going on the 2020, and even the hockey as a format have changed. Now you have the four quarters in the. It is not
Right.
no longer the one half and the second half. So if I take that hockey kind of a parable, probably the ICICI was your second quarter of your career game,
Yes, you're right.
and post I will say ICICI the second half was supposed to begin. Uh, so take that parable because now probably knowing you, knowing your career, I will say it's the time when the second half is supposed to begin, and any mistake here and there could have cost it. So without going into the details of, I will say, all those companies, probably, how did you kind of stayed on course in the second half of your game?
Still, Reliance Mutual Fund was a wonderful success story.
Hmm.
IDFC was short and swift.
Hmm.
Real, say, bottlenecks or challenges I faced in my own career was when I was working as CHRO and head of CSR for a regional bank, Dhanlakshmi,
Hmm.
where mandate was to transform it again, make it
Hmm.
a larger, respectable entity. And there were challenges from all sides. We started with, we couldn't achieve our ambition on dream. We stepped high and dry. And then I had to take a career break, look for a job,
Hmm.
possibly unemployed for a period of around 14 months,
Hmm.
and then came back to RBS.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that was the time when economy was not doing well,
Hmm.
jobs were hard, and
Hmm.
we were approaching the market with a setback.
Hmm. How did you handle that?
Yeah, in a market, you're as good as your last job.
Hmm.
So, yeah, how did I handle this? Again, a very, very honest assessment of myself. Could I do what I all I wanted to do? Could I do what was within my control? Uh, should I approach uh, my next inning
Mhm.
with a thought process of, say, anger
Mhm.
and bitterness. I
Mhm.
would approach it with all humility and say that, okay, fine, I did my best. There are things beyond me. So I leave that behind, but I catch those learnings and I
Mhm.
pick things up here.
Mhm.
I never blamed anyone for whatever had happened. I didn't carry those bitter experiences. I didn't say kept thinking or overthinking about what would have happened or what could have happened and
Mhm.
what money I lost or what opportunity I lost.
Mhm.
Over. And
Mhm.
those learnings and experiences came real handy to me in RBS. It was again
Oh.
looking at a big transformation, a loss-making entity globally trying to restructure itself, resize it,
Mhm.
uh, growing in one part of the business, closing down another. You are doing
Mhm.
supporting both. It is not
Mhm.
a independent HR head role, but looking at most of the engine rooms of the organization,
Yes.
services and delivery, we used to call it. So minus HR business partnering and couple of POEs, which had all the other functions.
Mhm.
And so you'll be surprised when this interview for RBS was happening. I was interviewed by almost like 5, 6 people across
Mhm.
over a period of 5, 6 months.
Mhm.
And I was asking this question that this role should be done by someone internal.
Mhm.
Why you're looking at me?
Mhm.
Gentleman who was interviewing me, he said, uh, yeah, naturally one should look at someone internal,
Mhm.
but we are looking at you for a reason.
Mhm.
And what? You bring in that commercial.
Mhm.
I don't want just any other person, but someone who brings in that commercial acumen into HR operating
Mhm.
domain.
Mhm.
Cost, efficiency, risk, technology, what can be done from India, what needs to be done from Hong Kong, and what should be done in the US. So
Mhm.
someone who has that ability, who carries that ability to question such stuff.
Mhm.
And if that's the answer, then I think this is the right job for
Oh. So you did a good slog over hitting here.
me. Yes, tough
Yes.
job.
Mhm.
It was a new role,
Mhm.
newly carved role, and they were looking for a person for almost like a year and a half.
Mhm.
You join the organization as a one-man team, grow it beyond 200, pick up jobs from rest of the geographies, and then make it a good success here. Meet all your stated objectives, and then move on. One, because the organization has taken a call that they're closing the bank and they're moving away from Mumbai to some other location, and you don't want to go. So it's
Yes.
very uh, mutually agreed exit in a
Mhm.
pretty respectable way, done in a very decent way. So I had a good inning in RBS, left
Mhm.
them, but at the same time, when you leave something, you have to figure out what to do next.
Mhm.
And so I want to do something different.
Mhm.
Banking, I have done it almost like for uh, 2000 till around 2019, 18, 19 years.
Mhm.
Uh, wanted to do something which is again really very connected, rooted, and this opportunity came my way, which is a very huge social impact and ability to bring a difference. But that's the life of it. Managing ambulances, healthcare.
That's true. Yes. So now I will also shift my gear here.
Yeah,
And having learned about your career, how you shaped it, your own ability to do the brutal assessment at any point of time, the commercial acumen piece that kind of stood out, humility piece which you talked about, that kind of stood, kind of stands out. Your ability to understand the social context and connect with different ideologies, that also played, I think, a huge role in who you are today. So those are the, I will say, certainly will give the benefit to the people who will listen to this, and that's a very good, I will say, career mantra for people who would like to have a good, successful career. So now I'm shifting the gear to few direct questions here, and there are two parts to this question. And my first part is for actually for people who are currently working in the corporate sector, and it's probably not in India only, but it's happening globally. During COVID, there is a lot of job cuts which have happened across the globe, across different organizations. But that would have a simpler problem. But problem is coupled because during the same time, lots of new automation opportunities are being explored by the organization, so which makes the problem little complex. My sense is that many people who went out may not come back. So, what will be your advice and guidance to the people who probably have lost their career during this time? What they should do so that they can successfully come back into the corporate life? That's the one part. Second part also is that even people who are currently in the job in different organizations, I think they have to do a lots of upskilling to continue to be where they are and grow. So that's for the corporate kind of a thing. And I will actually ask the second question also together so that I don't interrupt your flow. And the second part of the question is for the students who are going to now come from the campuses. And all the news, not only from India, but from all parts of the world, all different colleges, they are going to see a reduced campus interviews from the corporates. So how should those students cope with this kind of a challenge? What should be their career strategy at this point of time? So now we can answer whichever part you want to answer first, but that's the two part.
Thanks, Sunil. And I would try to simplify it.
Mm-hmm.
The core challenge in all the three scenarios or the three questions you asked is the same.
Mm-hmm.
What is relevant today, which will get
Yes. Mm-hmm.
which will me gainfully, economically
Mm-hmm.
employed, something which I can continue to work.
Mm-hmm.
And the world has changed, and it's changing very rapidly, beyond us, much, much beyond us.
That's true.
And we need to change the configuration of our mind, our thinking at the same.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't think of any old reference like what was my previous compensation, what was my previous resignation, what was my stature
Mm-hmm.
and height of the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
These are things which
Mm-hmm.
uh, one will have to look at it very, very differently. Again, what I call it the process of elimination and process of selection one needs to do very
Mm-hmm.
good and very honestly. So what kind of job would survive this moment?
Mm-hmm.
Any high connect contact job you
Mm-hmm.
think survive? If it is a life saving area, possibly, but
Mm-hmm.
for a surgeon, although a high contact job would
Mm-hmm.
survive, but maybe a man who is doing something door to door, or a
Mm-hmm.
person who is meeting a doctor every evening for his prescription or to promote his brand, possibly to see impact. Uh, Similarly, something which requires a very complex way of distribution and logistics may not work
Mm-hmm.
when you are working with limited resources, limited lines, limited uh, distribution network.
Mm-hmm.
You simplify your that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that basically needed. What is the need requirement of the customer? It is at the right.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so if you start looking at it from this prism and this perspective, possibly the answers would come through. So it's all about asking the right question. So for the working professional who has gone out,
Mm-hmm.
unable to get a job,
Mm-hmm.
you have to think on those lines that
Mm-hmm.
that's the same role. Is
Mm-hmm.
if it is available, what kind of competition out there?
Mm-hmm.
Having a 20 years experience, 25 years experience, possibly someone with 15 years also can do this.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, actually I'm competing with him also. So
Mm-hmm.
my last benchmark on competition would hold ground here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
going to learn something new here. Yeah. So, yes, what new, what have to think in terms of reskilling and also repositioning myself, looking at newer and newer opportunities, different kind of employers, picking up consulting assignments,
Mm-hmm.
picking up short-term roles,
Yes.
picking up project-based assignments, and
Mm-hmm.
if something is coming your way, possibly uh, a bit of volunteering,
Mm-hmm.
please remain engaged, remain
Mm.
connected. Uh, Otherwise, the mind has its own strange way of working. It will put you into a corner from where it's very difficult.
So you simplify things so easily. In fact, that's the word which I have heard now at least 8 to 9 times. So simplify things. Uh, One key part which you also talked about is that old reference point may not work. So
Yep.
recalibrate that. That is something which will be required. Probably also look at terms of, I will say, different forms of work, including volunteering, including project work, including temp work, kind of a thing. And that's probably the whole reference frame change. What you are talking about will matter a lot for these people to come back. So that's really, really, I think, good guidance for all those people. Anything in terms of probably reskilling or changing the skill reference point? I know that will probably may be tough, but will that be required?
Uh, Need of the day, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do it,
Mm-hmm.
see, the game is changing every day. We
Mm-hmm.
talked about hockey, we talked about cricket. Game
Mm-hmm.
every version.
Mm.
Each IPL tournament, we saw something new.
Yes.
Hockey, we see something new, some kind of a technology coming in, some kind of a new technique coming in. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to keep a very close eye on what's changing. And
Exactly.
I learned
Exactly.
stuff. So once you realize that something is changing, something new needs to happen, then work on it. Number one.
Mm-hmm.
When you
Mm.
work, reach out to people who are good at it.
Yes.
Reach out to the network, reach out to the experts, and reassess yourself.
Mm.
It's kind of in a check,
That's
assessment,
true.
check, and then also go a step
Mm-hmm.
and start engaging with people who are happy to do a mock interview or
Mm-hmm.
a very good professional assessment, objective assessment. So
Mm-hmm.
what we call that
Yes.
the next tournament starts, this is
Mm-hmm.
bad practice.
That's true.
So
That's true.
tournament,
That's true.
approach the big tournament without a good match practice? My answer is no.
Yes.
I will do a match practice so that when
Hmm.
I actually hit the pitch, I'm almost like raring to go. I'm not
Yes.
learning on the pitch, but I've learned, I've come here with good level of preparedness.
So I'm tempted to ask a connecting question, and this is something which I have probably also seen uh, many a times for people, especially people who are the, I will say, mid to late stage of their career. They tend to get imprisoned with their own experience, and somewhere in their mind say that I have been doing this thing for 10 years, 15 years. Why are you even telling me to look at any other career or any other skill? Uh, So, what kind of, I will say, suggestion you will have for those kind of people, that how can they come out of that their own experience prison and look at life differently? It's like earlier they were planted in some kind of a Gondwana jungle, and now I have to plant them into some kind of a Himalayan jungle. So that's the, I will say, like the way we are seeing in IPL now. So some teams which used to do well on the Indian grounds are not doing that well on the Abu Dhabi or the Sharjah grounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
So very similar thing. So what will be your suggestion for the people who connect very deeply with their experience, and somewhere they find it almost like a affront that how come you suggest them that no, this is now valueless. Does it become completely valueless? How they can get the insight from the experience and move to the new playground? So, what will be your suggestion for that?
See, there are certain things which one needs to keep in mind. Uh, what do you do when you launch a product? You create a product like that, or you assess the market. You
That's
look
true.
for the need of the customer, right?
Mm-hmm.
See, the employment market is also a need of the customer. What is that which the industry is asking for or looking at? What kind of skill? If I'm approaching the market with something outdated, will I be accepted?
That's true.
So if I don't ask myself that question, then I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing injustice to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So, so look at the market, scan the market, look at what kind of opportunities are there, what suits you, what you're willing to do. No one is asking you to discard your experience. The
Mm-hmm.
experience has given you something very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And that value is actually about how to think, how to process your thoughts, how to structure
Mm-hmm.
the learnings you had, the
Mm-hmm.
knowledge. If that can be transported into something else,
Mm-hmm.
not here with you. No one is taking that with you. Possibly that can be new journey as well. But my product needs to change, right? Based upon
Mm-hmm.
the market
Yes.
in time. And I look at myself as a product.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm approaching,
Mm-hmm.
uh, say, a startup, selling my candidature,
Mm-hmm.
experience is fine, but I need to be fulfilling your requirements,
That's so true. Yes.
your requirements of the business. Ability to get talent at low cost, maybe different kind of working model, networking, bringing
Mm-hmm.
it together, not the same old practice of hiring 50 people on board and looking
Mm-hmm.
after for next 20 years. That may not work. Possibly once we to scale that may. But at in a very limited resource constrained way, how can I build a strong network of like-minded people who can grow my business? If I'm good at it,
So again, I will say very valuable suggestions are here. Uh, what, in fact, this will help people who have moved out of the job during this time. And probably what you are saying that your experience is still valuable, but you have to do a new product launch of yourself
yeah,
to meet the new market requirements. And that is not any kind of a disrespect to your previous experience.
not at all.
And actually, you can translate that experience into new set of product for the new market. That's
Yes.
a really, really, I'll say, good suggestion. Uh, what will be your suggestion for the probably students who are going to come out of the campus now? How do should they approach? I know that there will be a lot of people who might not get the campus offers this year. How they should look at their career, and people obviously who will all the things which you have talked about so far will be valuable for them. But probably two, three guidance for the students who are coming out of the campus this year.
So very first would be don't chase salary, look for experience, look for a good experience. That is very vital need of the hour. You may not have many companies coming your way. So whatever opportunities coming your way, please look at them. Look at offers coming in from startups, companies, companies into health sector, companies into rural sector, NGOs or societies which are working in some areas which are untouched by the pandemic, or you can contribute with your knowledge
Mm-hmm.
for those experiences. And as and when the market, the economy opens up, you will definitely have more and more opportunities coming your way. But the way it will help you is that you will have something beautiful under your belt, some beautiful, some very good experiences, something which so you build, connect, network, learn something on the ground, and uh, contribute something to it. So
Very
don't
nice, sir. Very nice, sir.
then
Yes.
look for sectors which are still growing and which will have opportunity. I would say Health will be a sunrise industry.
Hmm.
Rural agriculture will be growing, and it may not be very, very well paying, but it will be growing, and it will give a lot of satisfaction when you work in those kinds of. Look at small, mid organizations which are still growing, but may not pay you very high salary. But the learning experiences would actually more compensate for the high salary. How do you look?
Very good, sir. Very good. Very good suggestions. In fact, all the people who will listen to you will get some kind of guidance around what kind of a sector to change for. And I'm not going to leave you without talking about the role of volunteering, the role of, I will say, social work. How does that helps you in terms of your career as an individual growth, I will say, as a holistic growth. And that's one area where you have worked, I will say, far more than anybody else, I will say. In fact, at times I feel jealous about you that how much time you get to do all those things. So maybe talk about that, is that how that makes your career complete. So how, from where that started and how that has grown over the period of time, your volunteering efforts, and probably again some mantra for all these people that why they should consider that as a part of their career, not something as a separate thing to do.
So, Sunil, so see this over fixation with your visiting card
Mhm.
kill you as a person. It may
Mhm.
help you as a professional, but it will kill you as a human being or as a person.
Yes.
That's not something which defines me completely. That's one part of my life, maybe 8 hours or 9 hours, 10 hours, which is spent on my professional side of it. There's life beyond that professional side. It's a family, it's a community,
Mhm.
society, the people around you.
Mhm.
We have some responsibility in these boxes also, right? And
Mhm.
once
Yes.
I try to balance these boxes or do something on my way
Mhm.
of these boxes, then only I'm complete. And then
Mhm.
lots of energy, satisfaction, happiness largely comes from these. Plus,
Mhm.
for the professional box, which is a
Mhm.
little sized box, but
Yes.
these boxes can't be overlooked or ignored.
Mhm.
Make me who I am.
Okay.
The professional box is an incomplete definition or identification of me.
Mhm. So one more thing here, sir, and probably we are the alma mater, and we all know that piece. So our institute motto was the putting the last first. How much that played a role in bringing that part of yours?
I connect deeply with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not coming from a sense of duty, but
Mm-hmm.
I think this is something which is just there in me. I would feel incomplete without.
Mm-hmm.
So it's part of my personality, part of my DNA.
Mm-hmm.
If you are not able to do something, if you're incapable of doing something, then it's fine. But if you're capable of doing something, then please do your best in whatever little way you can. And it should not come from a position of that, hey, I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Do it. That's very basic as a human being. As a human being, stand for the other human being. Not able to
Mm-hmm.
do that, then possibly I would question your existence. So it is part of me, part of my DNA, part of my
Mm-hmm.
that out being.
That's so beautiful, sir. Thank you for taking out the time. We touched upon so many things in we almost did more than an hour. Your entire career journey, the beauty of simplicity, the beauty of I will say humility. You talked a lot about the networking and how that helps. Uh, you talked about your ability to interact with multiple parts of the business and the role of the commercial acumen. You also talked about is that how can I translate my own experience into a completely new avatar, and probably which is the need of the hour to look at the new careers. You also talked about the role of the upskilling, reskilling, all those part. You also talked about that we need to prepare for each stage, and if we don't prepare, probably we'll not be doing good enough. So thanks a lot for covering all those things. And the last but not the least, I will say, probably it's the first thing, is that your career is incomplete without the volunteering efforts. And do it with the, also it's more of a moral sense than only just because it's a duty or something like that.
That's the moral compass which keeps
Yes, and
going.
that makes you the perfect person in that sense. A whole person, not the perfect, a more holistic person. So thanks a lot for talking with me on this one. I must think that this will be something which will be very interesting for all the people who will listen to this. Thanks a lot, sir.